We've been talking on the verses summarizing the parameters of the 8 consciousnesses. And what is consciousness? Consciousness is the main theme in the subject that we're exploring. And consciousness has a lot to do with psychology, with modern psychology. Modern psychology is the study of behavior, especially of mental behavior. So it's very much related to the study of consciousness. And the study of consciousness in the Buddhist terminology is called Yogachara. And Buddhism is not just about listening to these words. You really have to practice it. All right, let's get onto it. The study of consciousness in the Buddhist language is called Yogachara. Yujia Xing Pai. Yuqie Xing Pai也行. Yujia, yoga. What is yoga anyway? What is yoga? You're practicing yoga. What is yoga? In yoga, there's one word that you must have in your mind when you practice yoga. What is that? 瑜伽是什么? Harmony. You're harmonizing something. What are you harmonizing with? You have to find out how to harmonize. So Yogachara is the study of consciousness, and all phenomenal existence in the external world is without intrinsic self-nature. That sentence sounds simple, but is extremely philosophical and complicated. You really need a lot of time to think about it. All objects are just representation in our consciousness. When you come here and you're looking for how does Buddhism give me more riches, let me prosper more, so that I can do everything smoothly, so that I can get everything I wish, so that I can get a better family, better business, better reputation, more money. Is that Buddhism? If you're looking for that, you're not looking in the right way. You're not looking in the right way. But most people starting with, what can I get from Buddhism? What can I acquire from Buddhism? If Buddhism is just to increase your greediness, that's not Buddhism at all. All those who've been listening to consciousness, you know already. If you're just greedy for something, that's not Buddhism at all. Let's carry on this, what we call summary. We're talking about a summary, regurgitation. Yogachara is meant to be applied as a meditative practice and knowledge to thoroughly understand consciousness. The final goal is the complete transformation of consciousness into wisdom. So the Yogachara study consciousness in detail. And why did they study that? They want to transform consciousness into wisdom. There's a difference between consciousness and wisdom. We can also say consciousness is polluted wisdom. So we want to turn the polluted wisdom into wisdom itself. We have consciousness, but we may not have wisdom. We can say we have intelligence, but we may not have wisdom. Wisdom is something that is close to nirvana. Is nirvana. It's a tool to nirvana. And intelligence isn't. Intelligence has basically two sides to it. It's intelligence that is good and intelligence that is bad. Which one do you have? It's intelligence. Warlords have a lot of intelligence, but they impose killing on other people. So intelligence could be used in the wrong way. Now, in the perfect clarity of enlightenment, there is total awareness and complete understanding. So if you really have perfect clarity of enlightenment, in perfect clarity of an understanding of enlightenment, intelligence, and wisdom, then you have total awareness and complete understanding, which subsumes the I of the ego differentiated self. So we have a self, an ego. And in the perfection of enlightenment, there is no samsara and no suffering. It is nirvana. So in other words, if we have the wisdom, transform consciousness into wisdom, the final goal would be your ego will be subsumed, will disintegrate. There's no more I, no more ego. And there's no more ego, there's no more samsara, no more life and suffering. And in Buddhism, we call it nirvana. So just to put it very simply, the study of consciousness, why do we study consciousness? What consciousness examines, who has the consciousness? Who has the consciousness? Who am I? Why am I coming to this world? Where do I come from? Who am I? Psychology is dealing with who am I? Who is he? What is our relationship? So who am I? Let's explore. Who am I? I am body and mind. I am body, and body is a physiological system, and mind is consciousness. You are, we are, everybody is nothing but body and mind. Nothing else. Body and mind. Without a body, you don't have the mind. Without a mind, the mind resides in the body. I'll put it that way. So body and mind, they have to be in harmony. You have to do some yoga about it. Because the body and mind sometimes is not in harmony. As we always said, especially so those neuroscientists, they said the right hemisphere of the mind and the left hemisphere of the mind, they're not in harmony. Their vibrations are different. The frequency of the vibration are different. And even the brain's vibration sometimes does not harmony with the vibration of the bodily parts, the distinct bodily parts. So when the whole body is not in harmonizing vibration, the body has problems. Physiological problems and mental problems. Do we have all these problems? Yes, we do. Because we're not harmonizing. Now let's start with the body. What does the body have? The body have the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and the brain. Why particularly pinpoint or emphasize on eyes, ears, nose, and tongue? The body is the body. So the body, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and brain will have the six parts. And when we talk about the body, it contains not only the eyes, ears, nose, and tongue, the hair, the nails, the teeth, the skin, the flesh, the veins, the bone structure, liquid and bone, kidney, heart, liver, bladder, spleen, lungs, intestines, stomach, feces, brain, gall, phlegm, plus you name them. And all these make up our physiological system. And the Buddha particularly lay out eyes, ears, nose, tongue. Why? Why? Because It's our eyes, ears, nose, tongue that creates all this karmic energy. Because they contact external world, and in the process of the context creating relationship, in the process of this relationship we attach, in the process of this craving attachment we perform, in the process of performance of our behavior and expression of our speech, we create a lot of karma. Because of karma, we suffer. So it's not because of God, because of you yourself. We're creating all this karmic energy that lead us into what we are today, what we will be tomorrow. So tomorrow is in your hands. The past, you already have performed. You can't change the past. You can't change the fact that you were born as an orphan. Can you change that? You say that you come from an orphanage, and now you're an adult, you left the orphanage, you came up to the society, you do your work. Can you change your past? You cannot. In the past, you came from a poor family, a broken family. You can't change that. But you can change now. And you can't change for the future. So you're full of hope, full of confidence. You can change everything. Physiological system, the brain, that's our physiological system. Everything is in a constant flux of changes. Even now, inside your body, your physiological system. All right? That's your body. I am the body and the mind, and my body is changing all the time. And my body should always be seeking a constant harmony with the mental. But I don't know about the mental, so I'm not always harmonizing. I'm always running into trouble when I'm not harmonizing. So let's talk about the mind now. We have perception. In perception, we have vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. And in the Buddhist language, the first vijnana. The first vijnana means consciousness. The first consciousness, second consciousness, third, fourth, and then the fifth. So we have the first 5 perception, the 5 consciousnesses in the front end. And you know, in the study of Yogachara, the Buddha, in all the sutras, point out in detail what are these vijnana, what are these consciousnesses. And right now we are studying them. I've been talking for about a year already, off and on, and I haven't really covered about 1/3. So the Buddhist sutras all touch in detail about vision consciousness, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. And the details are much more than modern psychology. People who are studying psychology, you should know, I study psychology, I know. I studied psychology 100, psychology 200, psychology 300. I study sociology about human behavior, deviant behavior. I study even a subject in deviant behavior in sociology. I wasn't good at science, you know, when I was in university. So I tried to avoid physics, chemistry. Those are not my good points. I was good at chemistry, but not in physics, not in mathematics. I don't know why I became an accountant. You know, I was really bad with mathematics. But then later I find out that accounting is not dealing with mathematics in details, only debits and credits. And I had trouble in remembering debits and credits. And when I was at my home, one side of my room has no window. That's the left side. And the other side of my room has a lot of windows. And I always remember the debit side is without window and the credit side has windows in it. That's how I remember, even debit and credits. So perception, the 5 perceptions. And then other than perceptions, We don't only have perceptions, right? Perception are only perceiving. After what you have perceived, you still need to what? You still need to think about it. The next, what we have is cognition. You found that in psychology. Deviant behavior, that the subject I took, is in between psychology and sociology, because society is dealing with deviant behavior externally, because God, they have to deal with it. There's a lot of deviant behavior of the society. And how does deviant behavior come about? You just have to study psychology. So sociology and psychology, they always hand in hand with each other. So when you already have the vision, perception, you got to go through a whole series of cognition. And in the Buddhist language is mano vijnana, mano. And I always call that manager who are in control and who are training, who are controlling the first five, vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. That's the manager behind, which we call the mano. The manager, always remember, that manager's name is Mano. Hey, Mano, how are you? Mano. Mano is supervising vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Mano, the manager, also can go through previous past files. You see, vision, the staff of vision, staff of hearing, smell, taste, and touch, they have no right to, all these files are confidential. They can't get into those files. Only the Mano can. Mano can get into files, can do budgeting. So Mano, cognitions, okay? And then all this Mano also what? Collaborate with manas, with ego proliferation. Because that ego is always dealing with I. How do I do it? I got to be better than you. I'm jealous of you. I frown on whatever you're doing. I don't like you. I hate you. I love you. Always I and he and me and she. You always have this ego proliferation inside of you. And that ego proliferation is like a prison wall that's been enveloping you. You have no chance to get out. We are all living in that ego prison in our mentality. We cannot go beyond it. As a Bodhisattva, to learn the Buddhist philosophy is to get beyond this ego prison, get out from this ego prison. If you're in that ego prison, you can never get out of samsara. You're always in life and death. So that ego proliferation, that ego has always been a consciousness dominating you, inside of you, for what? For as long as you live. Before you live. In your previous reincarnation, in your future reincarnation, in your present reincarnation, that ego has been with you all year round. 24 hours per day. The seven vijnana, the seven consciousness. And then all these, cognition, ego, and perception, after what they have done, they don't get disintegrated. So what you have perceived, what you have heard, what you have talked about, what you have done, what you have thought in your ego. So after you die, did it all disappear? Did it all gone? Oh, when I die, nothing left in me. So I can do what I want. I can, as long as I'm happy in this life, I can do what I want, right? As long as I'm happy. That's a criminal approach. I can kill, I can steal, I can be jealous, I can get mad, I can be selfish as long as I can look up to my benefit. If I don't like you, I can get rid of you. If I love you, I can do whatever I want to possess you. If I can do whatever I want as long as it makes my ego happy. Is that what the case is? That's been the case of all ordinary people. That's the problem. Because that's the ego proliferation. All these, after what you have done, you think you can get away with it when you die? No. That's a karmic energy that get stored into the last consciousness. That is a very important consciousness. That is the consciousness that is responsible for reincarnation. When you all died, you don't have the eyes anymore. No body, no lung, nothing of you left. What is left? That karmic energy that gets stored into the eighth consciousness and roll into the next life. And you roll into this life with that energy before. Because of what you have done in your previous life. In this life, why did your dad pass away when you were so young? Why didn't you have a chance to see your dad? And why did your mom go through all these? Why did your mom have to remarry with you, go into another family? You could have been mistreated in another family. Why did you go through all this? Because you already have germinated all these causes in your previous life. You know why your dad treated you differently than how he treated John, your brother? Because John loved your dad in previous life and gave your dad a lot of, love. Whereas you hated your dad in your previous life. And there's unfinished business that you have to come back again, and they treat each other in a different way. Everybody has different destinies, different things, different karmic energy. Don't blame anybody. You could have done the same thing to him or her before in your previous life, and this just came back to get you, or to repay you, to love you, or to hate you. You did it all yourself. And that is all stored in the consciousness that's never forgotten. That's all in your computer memory. You think when the computer is gone, that's gone? It's all in the memory. And that memory is more powerful than this millions of bytes and bits and bytes in your computer. That's invisible. That energy is invisible. It can store billions of memories in there. Nothing got forgotten. You think you have done something wrong and nobody would see it, and then nobody know about it? No. Your sixth consciousness, your eighth consciousness, store every word, every thought. The memory is so unlimited. And that is what we call, what do you call that? Store consciousness, the alaya consciousness. The eighth Vijnana. So when you count 1 to 8, there are 8 consciousnesses. And what we're talking about for a year now, I don't know how long when I finished it, maybe slowly I will finish it. I've been talking about it for a year, off and on, for many hours already. And we call it verses of the 8 consciousnesses. That is one of the many literature that contains the Buddha's teaching on consciousness. There are a lot of others. So, if you're good in English, if you're a Chinese, you're good in English, this is the field of study that you should get into. Because there's a lot of English literature on this. Because this clan, this school of thought of the Buddhist teaching is the most prevalent in the Western world, North America. Because why? It's so close to psychology and sociology. So a lot of scholars for the past 100 years have gone into this field and explore a lot. The first country that explored a lot in English in the East is Japan. They spend a lot of time studying this and translating it in English. And the second country that has spent a lot of time in studying consciousness in English and in German is Germany. Germany is another country that spent a lot of time in studying this Vijnana Matrata. You know why Germany? Because Germany was a country, and still is the country that specializes a lot in Sanskrit and in Pali. They have a lot of scholars like George Muller, and so many of these scholars, they study. You know why? Because the German, they are, what do you call that? What do you call people who dig underground to extract old things? What do you call that? There's a term for that. I forgot that term. Huh? Archaeologists. The German were very good archaeologists, and they sent troops into India to extract relics, and they extract a lot of scripts of Sanskrit, the scrolls of leaves, thick palm leaves, and a lot of Sanskrit, and then they extract a lot of languages in there, and they didn't understand. In order to be archaeologists, have to understand everything they extracted from the soil, and then scholars started to study Sanskrit. They were Sanskrit expert, Pali expert. They studied not only Devanagari, they studied Siddham, and they were expert in Siddham. And the Chinese, 1,200 years ago, some of the monks traveled to India and brought back a lot of sutras, the Buddhist sutras, and they were written in Siddham. The present day Sanskrit that you study is not Siddham, it's Devanagari. But if you know Devanagari, then it's easy for you to study Siddham. When you take a course in Sanskrit poetry, you thought that is just literature. But when you examine the actual Sanskrit poem, then you know at a time when the Buddha was preaching, there were groups of people who submerged themselves in just Epicurean luxuries. And there's another group that is really philosophical, really studying how to get away from samsara. So these people, they wrote poetry to express their feelings about society, about thinking. So don't think that it's just from philosophical sutras that you can get, get a little bit of enlightened intelligence from it. You can also get it from poetries, And there's such a course at UBC, the Sanskrits and all that. There's no end to learning. The more you learn, the more you know that the Buddhist teaching was really the kind of wisdom that people have ignored. They're just looking for pleasures, materials. There should be people who bring this out to the public, to let people know that, look at all these, the wisdom of the Buddha is all in here, but you're not studying them. You're not looking for them. You're only looking for pleasures, looking for enjoyment, and looking for going about partying, going about, all these different luxuries in life. This is something that we're looking for. By the way, this is a group of people who are not doing that. You're looking for wisdom, actually. We should praise you for looking for wisdom. Otherwise, what would you do had you not been in here listening to this monk talking about these things? You would have been in what? White spot? Sleep in for 2 hours? People just on a Saturday morning, they just sleep in for 2 hours. And then after they slept for, sleep in until 11 o'clock, they just went for brunch, combining the breakfast and lunch, And then what did they do? And after brunch, they go on to a gym, exercising, reduce. After they put in some fat in the body, then they reduced it. They're all in the process of getting fat in the body and reducing the body. Getting fat in the body is called eating. Reducing is called going to gym. So is that a kind of dichotomy that they always work to us? I don't know. Vilakrati Sutra, time's up, I can't even do a review. What's the reason for suffering and mental disorders? Because of our craving and attachment. We are suffering. Do we know about that? We are suffering. Do you know that you are suffering? Even though you think that you are not suffering now, why are you not suffering? We have death, we have aging, we have sickness in front of us. We have all kinds of suffering. Those are facts. Do you have to die? Would you get sick? Will you get old? Other than all these mental disorders that we haven't mentioned. Would you get jealous, greedy, hatred, depression, fear, phobia, lots of mental disorders that we have. And do we call them sufferings too? All right. So why do we have all these? Because whenever we have that, it's because our sensory organs attach and crave to externalities, all these externalities, and then what is arising? A consciousness is arising. And we have to study all this relationship. The Buddha, in all the sutras, want to point out all these relationships so that we know how to deal with them. And then what I would like to talk about later, I want to like to talk about all these mental experiences, and then I would like to talk about why do we have emotions, and then I would like to talk about the first 5 consciousness. How do we get about studying them? What's the approach? We want to study the I consciousness in detail, and the approaches we use, we have 9 approaches. We want to study how the eyes perceive the world. We want to study how the eyes get to know the world, how the first 6 consciousness, the moral nature of the first 5 consciousness, the realms of activities of this 5 consciousness, the concomitant mental functions that arise simultaneously with each consciousnesses, the necessary preconditions for these consciousnesses to materialize, and how does each consciousness function, and how do we transform all this consciousness into wisdom, and finally, how do we use each consciousness to attain enlightenment instead of performing crimes, performing misbehavior. How do we use our consciousnesses to transform them into wisdom instead of using our eyes and nose and ears and taste and all that to injure others, to create bad energy, immoral energy. So what do we choose? So we want to study consciousness, each consciousness, from 9 perspectives in detail. That's what we've been talking. And maybe in my next lecture, hopefully, I was talking about the next lecture, and then suddenly they said, he's gone to Hong Kong. So I received a few calls from Singapore, and they said, I looked into your YouTube, and we liked all the lectures. We even listened to all this Q&A that you have, and we'd like to invite you coming over to Singapore. And I didn't reply them. I got this call, a variety of calls 2 years ago, and I didn't even reply because I didn't have time. I'm here, so how can I go to Singapore and Malaysia? And then last time when I was at University of Hong Kong giving a talk on how to overcome emotional challenges, I got someone sitting by my side, a couple, and they started to talk to me, and they said, we have an organization in Singapore that we have been contacting you, and we didn't get a reply, and now you're in Hong Kong. I would like to talk to you personally, and I would like to invite you to go and talk about the Buddhism, because you are bilingual. Singapore people, young people in Hong Kong, they speak English and Putonghua, and some Guangdonghua. So he said, you can speak English and speak Putonghua. So we would like you to go over there because, sometimes when you listen to Chinese, some of the Chinese is in ancient style, some of the sutras, and young people may not understand. But if you speak in English, they understand perfectly. So I said, all right, I'll think about it. And then this 2 months passed, and lately I have a professor coming over to join a meditation retreat. She handed me a letter. She is a professor studying the archive caves of Buddhas in China. Study of arts, carving, relief work, and all that. And she passed me a letter. In the letter, I have an invitation saying that we would like to invite you to Singapore. So I don't know when I should be going. Maybe next year. I try to postpone that and put this in priority, I look after you, you know. It doesn't mean that I'm always away. I look after everybody in here. So this is my first priority. So I said maybe next year. So next year, approximately about this time, I'll be off to Singapore if I still exist in this world. We don't know. I mean, how do we know? Everything is fleeting. You think the fact that you exist now would mean that next year you're still around? We don't know. Everything is impermanent.